skinning knees for silver linings. So many times, my 6-year-old knees bled against the best of themselves, scarring, hoping I wouldn't peel my curiosity off, begging me to let them heal before I remember. At the time, I'm sure all I wanted to see was what made me so pink underneath all that brown. What part of me blushed under an unsteady canopy of dried blood? If it was growing so well, why did it need to hide? Now, I imagine our bodies are at constant war. The mind knows well before the rest of me how much it can swallow before purging is its only instinct, how much quiet can blanket over the rattling ghost tracks across a myriad of brain damage, how long it must hide, ashamed of its healing, until it can open its shutters and feel human again. When the scabs fell, the sting soon became the milky forgetfulness of childhood amnesia. Repair follows itself like we imagine misguided satellites chasing after stars. Trauma imprints itself in our bodies in any way the memory will stick. It cannot be forgotten. For years, we have grown like fingers from a loosening fist. Remember, 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 pain is memory. Why else would we call it growing pains? My name is Orooj Zafar, and I am a spoken word poet based in Islamabad. Heads turn and eyebrows raise every time people hear that phrase, spoken word poet. Put very simply, spoken word poetry is poetry that simply cannot keep its hands to itself on a page. Stories that require a performance, a conduit for their full effect to reach people, so they take form in a human body. It's poetry given a literal voice. A tidbit of history for you all, spoken word poetry has been around in this part of the world for centuries. It's just existed outside of English for the most part. I still remember the first time I saw people reacting to Munir Niazi viscerally performing his poem, Hamesha Der Kar Deta Hoon. So this new wave of storytelling in English was built on and alongside an existing cultivated culture by our most renowned local poets. I'm also a third-year medical student with an undying devotion to mental health, so a lot of the time I find myself ricocheting between a cold, hard science and a more mellow, colorful world of art and poetry. Over the years, I've turned this violent oscillation between the two perceived extremes into my biggest strength. I now juxtapose biological processes of growth and healing over acts of physical and psychological self-care in some of my work. My work, I believe, is about reclaiming my stories as honestly and sincerely as possible. Contrary to popular belief, sharing this process of forgiveness and acceptance towards myself is a deeply personal act. But when it's done on a platform like this, it moves people so deeply we now consider it a political one. That's a lot of pressure for a quiet revolution like that. And it also makes us wonder about the fragility of our existing power structures. Empowering as that is, it's also humbling. We live in a day and age where social media platforms have allowed us to witness very brave declarations of people's hardships, how they overcame them and how they often don't. We are slowly beginning to challenge something I like to call the human condition binary, which was a misguided attempt at making categorizing human behavior simpler. Now we're beginning to accept the messy, irrational, complicated spectrum of human emotion. Now, we don't consider each other good or bad, normal or otherwise. We've reclaimed our gray areas and dared to accept them loudly. My work explores that in hopes of accepting myself and maybe someday extending that comfort to other people. As we now challenge what normal means to us, it's important to look around us and see human beings for what they are. not complicated projects to fix or damsels in distress to save, but rather entire worlds wrapped in human skin worthy of love and care. I would like to thank TED and the host team for being as kind as they have and giving me this humbling opportunity to perform for you. I would now like to share the poem that placed second in the Pakistan Poetry Slam 2016, which was an act of defiance in itself. This is 9 reminders to love myself. 1. When I talked to myself in kindergarten, my teacher caught me nestled between crayons and towers of neatly stacked voodoo drawings, darting to find the perfect color, musing, mommies feed their babies through the belly button. That's why I have one, but they cry. I cried because I came out of my mommy's mouth. My mother was called to school that day. The teacher explained that I had been stammering a lie and I needed fixing. So my mother halted my stammer in its tracks and didn't hold back when she remarked, with a head that big, you never would have left my body, beta. 2. The gold of the sun is painful to me. Back home, the Margla exhausted monsoon makes blue skies mourn gray. I don't trust the color wheel anymore. There are more comma curves in my rain-dampened hair than this body can ever dream of showing. 3. I once heard of a mother dying of a big heart. I am sure our fate was written together. 4. I am beautiful in a way I cannot fathom. 5. But you see, I am beautiful in a way I cannot fathom. 6. There are very few things that I don't understand. 7. I was born in the spring of '96, and there has never been another quite the same. 8. 4 springs after this, my father had me ride on the back of his neon blue Vespa to the boulevard that never was again. The wind ran crude fingers through my bob hair, but it was more affection than I was accustomed to. The half-baked concrete lay vacant, like the list of mistakes I was yet to make, and above me stretched the intertwined woody fingers of nature's lovers, punctuated with a shy green, I call it bravery, craning my neck till it ached in my framework of 4-year-old bones to see that sometimes the color wheel doesn't lie, and if you let trees grow tall enough, they lean into words themselves and entangle their lovers star-crossed across pavement and blue Vespas. 9. Sometimes they'll make the gold of the sun hurt less. I swear to my god-awful concept of conception that I was brave enough to tell that blessed day, the sun was green. Thank you.